All right, Hafa Day, welcome. We're at the Crown Plaza Resort Saipan with Vin Armani, the founder and chief technology officer of Marianas Rycor. Can you first tell us, Marianas Rycor is named in the lawsuit filed by the Attorney General as it relates to the Tinian stable token for internet gaming. One of the main allegations is that the law that establishes that is unconstitutional because it reaches outside of municipal bounds, basically, right? So just your initial comment.
So it's about Tinian Local Law 24-3, which does two things, and so just maybe first off, I should give a little disclaimer, right? We are named in this lawsuit, so I will talk about that, but we are also a contractor for software and services for Tinian, supporting the Tinian Municipal Treasurer with software and with services to implement aspects of this particular law, which is to establish an account where they're going to be tracking funds. And so we have a contract with Tinian to do that, and that is what people are referring to as the stablecoin piece. So that is the Tinian Stable Token Reserve Account. So what we are contracted to do is to provide the software and services for the Tinian Municipal Treasurer to basically do the accounting on that account. The law itself, so in that regard, I am not authorized to talk about what Tinian's plans are. We are a contractor of the municipal treasurer who is named in this particular lawsuit. We are also named in the lawsuit, and the Tinian, I guess it's the Tinian Casino Gaming Control Commission. I believe I've got the name completely correct there. Their name. So it's the three of us. It's interesting that we are named, but in some ways I think it's awesome, and we're honored to be able to play a role in this particular case, because it's a very important case on a lot of different levels, and I think people have been caught up in some of the stablecoin and this and cryptocurrency, but the significance of it is a lot less about that, and it's a lot more about sort of the future of how are Tinian and Rhoda and the central government going to relate to each other and to the people. And it's one of these, there's been a few seminal cases. I believe this is going to be one of these seminal cases, and it's why we're interested in being involved. So just for background on the law, to understand like at a high level kind of what happened and the timeline of how we got to this place. Tinian decided that they wanted to make some changes to their existing casino laws in order to enable licensing of internet-only gaming. And they drafted a law, filed it, and voted on it in the last legislature. It was taken all the way up to the governor, and then the governor vetoed it. The Attorney General had some questions, also said that it was unconstitutional in that way, for different reasons than the second time, as you'll see, but the governor just basically said, you know what, the Attorney General said this, okay. And as I told you in the last time that we spoke, after that, I actually ended up in a meeting in the governor's office with his legal counsel and also our board chair. He brought up that he had vetoed this thing. We pointed out to him where the thing that the Attorney General had said was actually a part of federal statute, and he said, okay, you can tell Tinian to put this back through. We relayed that back to them because this was something that we had introduced to them, our technology that I personally have been using with my companies here, not only in the private sector, but also with the public sector, and we can talk more about that if you want, since 2022. So it's been used by hundreds, if not potentially thousands, of residents here. It was already being used by the Tinian Municipal Treasurer. We had already done pilots with other licensed entities around the world as it related to internet casino with this technology. Not related to CNMI, had never even thought about it, but got into a conversation where we said, we think that this could possibly help you. We've tried it in other places. They said, okay, this is interesting, and it still took a while for them to kind of figure it out and decide that it was what they wanted to do, but they put this law through, and then when they decided to do it again in this legislature, it was basically the exact same law, but then they added the additional piece that was the accounting and tracking of funds piece, the digital tracking of funds. And it's just the technology that we have, which is a blockchain technology, is like it's built for this. It's all about auditing and forensics and being able to trace money with cryptographic security and enable anybody in the world to be able to trace it as well, right? So it fit perfectly. So they added in the accounting piece because that was one thing that the Attorney General in the previous had said was, this really lacks controls over how are you going to determine where the money is and this sort of thing, right? So they added it in. And now that was voted on unanimously by the local delegation, sent up to the governor. The Attorney General, again, had some new things to say about it. The governor vetoed it based on that. And then it was overridden by both houses. So the Senate voted 7-1 to override it. And then the House voted 14 to, do I have this right? I think 14-2, something like that, to override it. So significant amount. So I guess that's 21 to 3 in terms of the legislators. It went into effect. We entered into a contract with Tinian after that. And now there is a lawsuit that is naming us. What's interesting about us being named is that the lawsuit is not actually against any of us. So the lawsuit is against the law to say you need to, asking the court to declare this law unconstitutional. So it is interesting that we are all named, considering none of us voted on the law, none of us drafted the law, none of us filed the law. We're a private entity. We obviously have no control over how votes go in the House or the Senate or whether the governor vetoes or anything. But we were included, and we're actually like I said, we're very excited to be included on this because really of how we view the broader significance. And so I'm glad that you were open to us talking, because I really would like to talk. I think the people need to know the broader significance rather than getting into the weird gossipy weeds of, the misunderstandings that are there about what this is.
Yeah, can you explain why you're excited? It sounds a little bit odd to say you're excited that you were named in the lawsuit, sure. But you're excited about maybe you have a chance to set the precedence here, or?
Yes, I mean, I think first and foremost, there's been a lot of misunderstanding about what it is that Tinian is trying to do and what it is that we do and who we are. And part of a case like this is discovery. And so really just laying out sort of the history of everything and putting it into the public records. No, absolutely. Quite the contrary, right? I mean, even at the last time that I was on with you, I was literally begging on camera for the Attorney General's office to just call us. Even if the Attorney General's office was to call us today to come in and to explain this technology to them, we would love to.
So if I may follow up, it's clear that the legislature has the will for something like this. Obviously, that's why it was overridden. It wouldn't have been overridden if they didn't have the will. And it seems as though you've had more than one occasion with the executive branch, several of its officers, to talk with them. So, I mean, after all that work, and here we are at the lawsuit, I mean, why do you think that this lawsuit was brought up really? Do you think it is absolutely a matter of municipal, kind of governance, or? So now I'll speak as myself. Okay. Now I won't speak as, so these are opinions that do not represent my company, right? This is myself. Okay.
So I will tell you, Tomas, that so I have two young daughters. Let me preface it with that, because what I'm about to say, people would be like, oh, what is that? So I have two young daughters. When we came here, they were 1 and 4. Okay, and like many little girls who are raised here, their favorite Disney princess is Moana. Right? I think that's pretty, like when we went to go see Moana 2 in the theater here, packed to the gills, right? So that is their favorite. It makes total sense. They're raised around a lagoon. They see, I mean, I'm looking around and I'm like, of course, that's what it is, right? And as this has been going on, and I've been asking myself the same question that you just asked me, it's funny because that movie keeps coming back to me. And it's like, you know, you remember the beginning of the movie, and here you have this really curious girl who's adventurous, she's curious, she kind of wants to do something different maybe, she wants to see things change, but everything is good. In her society, in her culture, everything works, it's flourishing, you know, and you even have the song at the beginning and you're showing that everything works, it's fertile and no one leaves. Right? And she's being raised in this situation, and it's like while everything is working, the curiosity to try to seek outside the reef is bad while everything is working. Right? But then things stop working and there's a crisis. And the coconuts come up rotten, and the fishermen aren't bringing in any fish, and there's a threat to the people that their way of life is going to be threatened, and their standard of living, and perhaps they might even die. And it's interesting because you have this young generation, and then you have this sort of middle ruling generation, and the young generation kind of wants to do something new, and the middle ruling generation is like status quo. But then in that movie, you know, the interesting part is the oldest generation is actually the one that tells her like, you're not crazy. Go up in this cave and see. All along we had the tools to do this. It just took someone to decide that they were brave enough to go beyond the reef. And she goes and she saves her people from the crisis. Right? And this has been coming up to me because more than anything, this is, and the reason why that story works, not just for us here, but why Moana works no matter where you are, is because it's a universal human story. It's it's the hero's journey, right? Joseph Campbell wrote about the hero's journey. This is what, since time immemorial, people have understood how we operate. And so this is a reason why I'm very glad to be, that we were named in this. And because it allows us to be a part of it. Otherwise we couldn't be a part, right? It allows us to be in kind of the band of heroes. And I also really respect it. And I respect it, and I'll tell you why I respect it. I respect that the lawsuit was brought. Whether or not I think it has merit or anything like that, I respect the impetus behind it, and I don't see it as malice. Because what I also see is that there have been many people who have come here, who have said all kinds of things, and who have turned out to not be good people, who have turned out to be scammers, who have turned out to want to steal from the people, who have turned out to do all of these things, right? And this is also another part of like this hero's journey story of like King Arthur pulled the sword from the stone, you know, only the person with the pureness of heart can walk through.
So you're saying you're looking forward to the lawsuit because if it goes in your favor, it'll finally set the record straight about who you are and what you're trying to do?
Yeah, but I think it's less about us, right? It's less about us because this lawsuit isn't going to go in our favor, right? It's either going to be that Tinian is going to have an opportunity to go beyond the reef to try to help everyone in this crisis. And because something that people should know is like, as we've run the models of this thing that Tinian is planning on doing, just because any CNMI business, which they're looking to license casinos, that's a CNMI business. It has to pay income tax, it has to pay BGR. For every dollar Tinian makes with this initiative, the central government will make 27 cents. Right? So if Tinian makes, $10 million, the central government makes $2.7 million without doing anything, without spending a dime, without passing a law, without doing anything. They just get the money. So how we see it is, we see it as Tinian asking, not even asking, right? Because it's a local law. They have the right, right? But also the support of, I think, a new group of leadership, especially a young leadership in the legislature, who is, if you go and you listen to when it was overridden in both houses, and you listen to the leaders who were speaking, time and time again, they were just saying, why can't they try it? It doesn't hurt us. Why can't they try it? They've got something. They want to try it. Let's let them try it. And so that's what we're excited about, because we live here, and we see the crisis around us. And it's great. Yes, of course, it will make us money. But most importantly for me, it allows me to do what I love to do all day long. And not just to make money, but to do something meaningful, to be able to look back and say, okay, we helped. Where there's a crisis of people who are here, and look, these aren't necessarily my people, I'm a guest, but my kids were raised here. I had a 1-year-old when we came here, right? To her, Saipan is home.
I wanted to talk about the potential impact even news of this has. Obviously, you're in a phase where you're trying to give out the 11 licenses, right? And then obviously, a simple Google search will show that there's this lawsuit going on, investor confidence. We throw that phrase around a lot here, investor confidence, right? So, I mean, what is the chilling effect of this lawsuit? Even if, you're excited about it, it sounds like, but other people who might want to invest, what does this tell them?
Well, so some recent things, the governor gave a State of the Union address, and he had a period where he was talking about a digital economy and economic diversification. Then, myself and Senator King Neighbors presented at the Chamber of Commerce recently. Thank you so much for putting that presentation up. But you also put up Executive Director Derek Sasimoto from CEDA, talking about that they went to, I believe, Select USA, and that the interest was from Silicon Valley and technology companies, right? And so one of the things that people should understand about where the tech industry is right now, many tech companies are now moving their domicile. They're moving from the places that they were to go to other places, and there's many domiciles all around the world. Dubai is a big one for people. Singapore is now losing some, and they're going other places. Texas is really big. Companies that are looking to go and do business in other places do their due diligence, and one of the main things they do it about is what is the government's tone toward me and my business. And this, especially, I think they've got lawyers, especially for them to look at it in the way that we've looked at it, even if it's questionable, to be like, whoa, is this just a punitive kind of attack? Immediately it's like, that's too much risk for us. Because most companies are not going to be happy about being targeted and added to a lawsuit by the Attorney General of ostensibly a state, especially when the thing that they've been added to the lawsuit about, they didn't do. We didn't pass the law. We didn't override the veto. We didn't file the law. We weren't the authors of the bill. None of it. We have a contract that's an authorized contract with the municipality that's been signed by all the parties that need to be signed, that it needs to be signed by, where we're not even receiving any upfront funds on that contract. And we're being named in a lawsuit about a law. So I think anybody could see how if we are trying to attract companies that are in the digital space, and of course blockchain and cryptocurrency is a major one. The President of the United States, one of his first executive orders was to say, I want to see blockchain and digital assets in every aspect of the economy. That means casinos too. He's somebody who's owned casinos, Trump Casino, right? So when he says, I want to see this technology in every aspect of the economy, it's including casinos. So I think if I would like people to go and read the lawsuit, I would like people to show up for these, I think our first hearing is June 30th. It's Judge Gavendo. It's about the injunction. I hope a lot of people show up. I hope a lot of people hear what's actually going on. I think it's important for them to know. But yeah, this is potentially quite chilling. Yeah.
All right, Vin, thanks. That's all the questions I have. I was going to ask about next steps. It sounds like June 30th is that next step, but is the industry still revving up even amid this lawsuit, or have you guys hit the brakes on things?
We haven't. I think the attorneys are still, obviously there's many different parties, right? So there's 3 defendants and the plaintiff of the AG. So I know that there is, as there usually is, there's wrangling between all of the attorneys. But you know, I mean, just as a final thing, one thing that I want to say that I think is important, and it's important again for the youth in this regard. Tinian and Rhoda, this is like higher level. Tinian and Rhoda are very special jurisdictions. I would hope that the youth, especially you as a son of Rhoda, that people would spend more time there. Constitutionally chartered municipalities. And our courts have said that they are fundamentally like separate branches of government. They are not they're authorized by the Constitution created their government, the same way that the mayor is authorized by the Constitution and the same way that the AG is authorized by the Constitution. And that means you have these 2 incredible sovereign, a high degree of sovereignty jurisdictions to do these sorts of experiments. And it's these sorts of experiments that are the going beyond the reef to enable to bring back, you know, some benefit to all the people. And so I think this is very important. This case is among the cases that have laid that out. And so yeah, again, thank you for allowing me to come and talk about this. I think if people look further into this, they'll see that it's actually really interesting, and it matters a lot, and it matters a lot more than, you know, some brand new technology. It has a lot more to do with the future of the people. So.